Here's who I am. For those of you who are online and don't know me, I'm a global career development facilitator. I've been working in the industry for probably 25 years, helped over 3,000 people in a variety of organizations, a variety of levels from C-suite to the recent graduates. And I specialize in project planning your job search, as well as known for my listening skills, my interview skills, my networking skills, and resume writing skills. So hopefully you'll find that what I've got to share with you about project planning your job search today is going to be really, really helpful. And one of the things that you all will find as we go forward here, much of the terminology and the jargon that I'm using in the presentation is that of project management. Okay, so for those of you who are not project managers, we always want to scope out our project, figure out what are we going to do, right? So in essence, here's our agenda, here's our scope for today. Okay, and we'll get through all of these things relatively quickly, but again, I do want to hear your questions when you have them, so please do interrupt me at any point in the presentation. So one of the things project managers like to do is put out pretty charts to show what they're doing and how they're doing and when it's going to get done. This is a Gantt chart. It's a simplified Gantt chart, but it's one that we can use for our project of job search or work search. And let me just take a step back for a moment on the difference in my mind between job search and work search. I want us to be focusing on looking for work, not looking for a job. Because in today's environment, research has shown from the staffing industry that a typical career is going to last 10 years. But within that career, a job is only going to last 18 to 30 months, which means in a 10-year career, we're probably going to have 5 jobs. Now, I just turned 60 this year, and I'm looking at probably 5 more jobs if I'm statistically accurate in my forward-thinking process. That means we all need to become experts at job search, right? But if we're looking for a job, we're looking for something that's inherently going to be temporary in today's environment. So let's start looking for work, things that satisfy us, things that get our juices going in the morning. I mean, I don't know about you in your last role, but I can tell you for the last 5 years that I've been doing this full time, I can't wait to get up in the morning and get down to my desk and start working. It's so exciting for me to help people in this way and to see the aha moments every day of people who get it, right? I love what I do. I'm working, but I'm working like it's not anything, it's life, and I'm loving it. I want to see that for you. If all you're doing is looking for your job, you're looking for your next paycheck. So let's start looking for work. That means we might look for a full-time W-2. It might be a contract. It might be temporary. It might be project. It might be forming our own business. It might be a combination of all of the above. It might be part-time or 2 or 3 part-time. But that's the way we're going to build the work and the wealth that we need and want to go forward. So a little bit of my soapbox there. I'll get off of that now. So our Gantt chart shows us all the steps that we're going to take in our job search. And on the left, you see there are a bunch of milestones. Those are the major steps, the major objectives that we need to cover. And from those, we can track, are we moving forward towards our end goal of getting a job? And I'm going to go more detail at different points through the presentation into the Gantt chart, but let's start with our first milestone. Anybody, show of hands, not know what they want to be when they grow up? Okay, a couple of you in the room, that's fine, and we shouldn't, right? It's something that we should be asking ourselves about every 5 years. Am I going in the right direction? Have I found my, as the Japanese call it, my ikigai, my purpose in life? or for our conversation's sake, my purpose in work. And so these are a couple of books that you can use to help identify what's your purpose in work. I love Dick Bowles' What Color is Your Parachute? But it's cumbersome to get through. I mean, the book itself is, what, 3 inches thick, and then there's the workbook that goes with it, right? It's very cumbersome. Kate Wendelton founded the 5 O'Clock Club in the 1980s. She's since retired, but wrote a great book called Targeting a Great Career. And her book is similar to Dick's, but it's a lot simpler and easier to get through. It is primarily in a workbook style. And I found when I did both of them at different times in my life, it took me about a month to get through Dick's book. It took me about a week to get through Kate's book. And in the end, I got the same results. Now, because I was at a different place in my life, the jobs or the work that was presented as the ideal for me changed. But getting there and the results in terms of the output were the same. Personality assessments like the Myers-Briggs, the Strong Interest Inventory, others, they're all great ways to help inform you of what will be the kind of things that you will enjoy doing. And the one caution I just want to give you with almost all of those interest inventories is this. It's going to come out and say, you should be A. In my case, the first time I did it, Paul, you should be a Roman Catholic priest. For a sexually active gay man, that didn't work out very well. But we don't want to look at, I should be a priest. What we want to look at is what are the qualities and characteristics of doing the work of a priest, or secondary in that list for me was an educator. Right? When you look at the type of work that those people do, what are the pieces of that I love, that I enjoy doing? And now take from those and identify what job title or what type of work fits that image. And what they're doing is they're saying, you have this personality type. People in these roles have the same personality type. You'll probably be good if you do one of those roles because you have the same personality as them. Right? So don't take it word for word, I must do what it says. But look at it as what's the trends and the concepts that are coming forward that have value and meaning to you. If you do nothing else, and even if you already know what you want to be when you grow up, I want you to take a look at that last bullet and do this. Create a prioritized list of all of your life's accomplishments. And from those accomplishments, we're going to do several things. First off, it's going to give us a sense of what do we want to be when we grow up. It'll help us to define what are those things that we like to do, the kind of people we like to work with, the environments we like to work in, the kind of skills we are good at and we like to use in our work. All of those things are going to come up. But the other thing that's going to happen is that list and the stories behind those prioritized goals become the bullet points on our resume, the talking points when we're networking, and the answers to all of the questions we're going to get asked in an interview. So no matter where you are in the job search process, you want to be creating that prioritized list, and I want you to include anything and everything in your life. Don't look just at your work life. Look at everything that you've done. And if you want more information on that, let me know, and I can give it to you at another time. Do we have any questions on finding your Ikigai? So let's look at the second milestone. And by the way, these first 4 milestones, this preparation phase, here's your foundation of your job search. So if you haven't done these, we need to do them first before we do anything else, because if you don't have a strong foundation, the building is going to collapse. Well, let's put a strong foundation in place for our job search or our work search. So prioritize identify the organizations that you want to work for. by creating target markets. And the target markets have three variables: location, industry, and role or function. Anytime you change any one of those three variables, you've created an entire new set of target markets. What this will help you to do is expand your search to look at things you may not have otherwise considered. And this is a place to dream. Close your eyes and say, if I could work anywhere in the world, where would I want to work? If I could work in any industry, what industries would I want to work for? If I could have any role that I at least tangentially am qualified for, what role or function would I want to have? Now we've got the full gamut. We can then prioritize those and then start looking at the top 3 to 6 of them and say, these are the places I'm going to start focusing my job search. Once we know those 3 variables, we can also then go and research to identify what are all of the organizations that fit that function, that fit that target. And now we know who we're going after for our job search. Questions here? Nothing online, I'm assuming, Dave? Yeah.
So let's say by organizations,
Okay.
number of positions.
All right, so the question was, at the bottom, I'm asking about the number of organizations or the number of positions that we're looking at. And that's a great question. I'm sorry, I forgot your name already.
Dorian.
Dorian, sorry, Dorian, thank you. So first thing to do is, once we've got our 3 variables and we've researched, now we can find out how many organizations are there that fit that target market. And from that, we can then create the list. And we want to ultimately have the complete list of names of all of those organizations. Part of the research we're going to do then is to identify how many people do they hire to do that specific role in each one of those organizations. So for example, for myself, if I were to look for another full-time corporate related position, I would want to work as a career services advisor in post-secondary higher education, primarily in public or private colleges. Now, within a 15-mile radius of my home in northern New Jersey, there are 8 colleges that fit the description of a public 4-year college or university. And those 8 colleges hire a total of 35 people to be career services advisors. So now I know that target market. I'll get right to you in a second, Patty. Now I know that target market, and I can then identify who are the hiring managers in those targets and go after them directly to get that role. Patty.
How do you know that's the amount of jobs open? How do you know, where did you get that number?
Okay, how do I know the number of jobs that are open? I don't, and frankly, I don't care.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, 35.
That's right. They hire 35 people in their career services departments to do this job, right?
So you added all the people in the career services, and that's how you got the number.
I added up all the people
Okay.
in the department to get that number.
They're not open jobs right now.
Absolutely not looking at open jobs.
Okay.
Because what I first need to know, is there enough opportunity? Is the target market large enough that I can realistically get a position in that space? And if we were only looking at the one target market of those 8 schools with those 35 positions, well, it's going to either take a hell of a long time for an opening to come up, or I may never be qualified. Right? So now I need to expand my target. And typically, let me just take a quick look. This slide never wants to work. Sorry, we'll go back past that in a second. So typically, what I want to do is look at the total number of positions, and if from a sales perspective, if I have 100 positions that are within my target markets, I'll have 20 hiring managers that are interested in talking to me. I'll interview with probably 5 of them, and one of those 5 should result in employment or an offer, right? And so I'm using the numbers to figure out where do I want to go. So I need, well, I don't want to bank on one offer, which would be 100 positions. I want to bank on at least 2 offers, so I want to look at 200 positions. Now, depending where you're at in the hiring or in your career, you may need fewer positions but more organizations, or more organizations and fewer positions. So we can play with those numbers a little bit, but round statistical numbers, 100 positions will get us at least 5 interviews and 1 offer if we're doing it right. So what we are not seeing here, sorry Beth, let me try this. There we go. And then I may need help getting back to the present. No, I should be able to do that. Once we know all the organizations we want to go after, now we have to go find out some more information about them. We need to research those organizations. And this is just some of the places that you can do some research. You all know a lot of these things. What I want to remind you of is, especially when you're looking at Indeed or, oh crap, my mind's blank all of a sudden.
Is it Recruiter, Monster?
No, the one that does the evaluation. You can leave.
Glassdoor.
Thank you, Glassdoor. Yeah, thanks, David. When you're looking at Indeed or Glassdoor or any others that are doing, allowing people to give their review of the organization, remember the worst one and the best one are outliers. And if they're all far left or all far right, they're all outliers. The truth lies somewhere in the middle. And so take everything you're getting with a grain of salt, but utilize the information as a part of your networking and your informational meetings and then in your interviews. The 2 places that I'm finding my clients are doing the best for learning about organizations and getting opportunities is through their professional associations and their alumni association. And I would say the alumni association is even better than the professional association right now, which is really fascinating to me. And I think the reason for that is coming out of COVID, we're all still looking for nostalgia and the opportunity to reconnect with people from our past. And so we're interested in talking to some of those folks who have similar experiences as us from these other places in our life, like when we went to college or possibly even high school. So reach out to those folks. I'm right now running a networking group for my alma mater. Every month we have 25 people on the call. They range from recent graduates to people just this week. We had someone who graduated in 1978 on the call. Now, my university has a relatively big international following. So on one call, I had someone from Saudi Arabia and from Turkey. On other calls, I've had people from the left coast, the south, and the north of the US. So people are coming from all over the place at all the different time zones to come together and learn more about what they can do to improve their job search and help each other in their job search. So far in 4 months, we've had 3 people land in that group. And they've all attributed that at least a part of that landing was to the knowledge they gained and the information they learned from their fellow alumni. So I would strongly encourage you to get in touch with your alumni associations. They're going to be a real great opportunity for you. And if your school is not doing any kind of a job search or networking group, let me know and I'll help them start one. Your goal here, though, is to become somewhat of an expert in the organization, in the industry, so that when you do go out to start your networking, you have the basic knowledge you need to talk intelligently and know what are the right questions to ask. The last of our milestones for the preparation phase is building our personal brand. And I'm spending a lot of our presentation time on these 4 milestones because they are so important, right? So we need to look at a lot of parts of our personal brand. It looks like we're a little bit ahead. There we go. So the first thing we need to look at in terms of our branding materials, our resume, our cover letter. Several people in the room today gave me business cards. I think they're still of value. In fact, both of them even had QR codes on it. I love it. I have a QR code on mine. It makes it so easy to connect with each other when you do that. You may want to create a personal logo. It's not necessary, but it could be helpful, and it could help set you apart from everyone else, so you might want to consider that. Of course, we need to have our portfolio with all of our reference letters, our certifications, our certificates, all of those things that prove we can do what we say we can do. And it could be an electronic portfolio. It doesn't have to be in paper, but it could be someplace where at least we've got all the materials gathered together so that if somebody asks for it, I can give it out real quick and easy. Right? So we need to create that personal branding material in terms of the print stuff. And one of the most important ones, I think, is your marketing plan. And that's why I separate it as a separate part of building your branding materials. Look at it this way. Your resume tells me what you did in the past. I don't care. What I want to know, especially if you're trying to talk to me for networking, what do you want to do going forward? What's next? The only thing I want to know about your past is to prove to me you can do what you say you want to do going forward. And that's what this marketing plan does. It looks primarily at where are you going next? How are you getting there? What do you want to do? What value do you bring to me as a hiring manager in the role that you want next? And then at the bottom of it, it's giving me the list of those organizations that I most want to work for. Now, when we're networking, I'm not going to give you my resume. I'm going to give you this marketing plan. And that would be, if we're in person, my leave behind with you. If we're online, virtual, or by phone, I'm going to email this to you. And I'm just going to say essentially, listen, here's a reminder of the stuff that we spoke about today in our networking conversation. You'll remember that these are the places I can do good stuff. And here are the organizations I'm looking to work for. So what I would most love from you is the names of people in those companies so that I can go and talk with them to learn more about their organization and see where I would best fit within that organization. So I think this is your most significant document right now in your job search. When we get to the point of interviewing, that's when we really want to have the resume ready to go. And then we need to look at your social media. And obviously for almost all of us, LinkedIn is the right place to be. Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, you can be on those. What you need to think about, though, is this. Where are the hiring managers that you need to talk to? Are they on LinkedIn or are they on Snapchat? Are they on Instagram? Wherever those hiring managers are, that's where you need to be. So focus your social media time on that piece. And if you use something like a Hootsuite that's a posting aggregator, you can create a post one time and then push it out to all of your social media, even though you may be focusing just on LinkedIn. All right, so I've covered a lot of stuff now, and I haven't stopped for questions. Anybody, any more questions online or anywhere? Okay. And then the last piece of our branding is our introductions. How do you tell people who you are when you're talking to them and when you're meeting them? And remember, networking is about building relationships. It's about creating a conversation. It's not about clicking, let's connect, and then never talking to them again. If you want me to help you with your job search, you better be talking to me on a relatively regular basis. That could be once every 3 months, but at least once every 3 months, we're talking and we have some kind of relationship. But if we're not talking but that one time when you connected with me, I don't know you from Adam. Why would I give you access to my contacts? So how do we create that connection that is a relationship? It's by engaging. So when you're on LinkedIn, and I'm sure many of you know Ed Hahn, he is the guru in my mind of LinkedIn engagement. Follow him to see what he does and how he does it, because you want to do similar. And the two things that he does is, number one, he posts on a regular basis, and number two, every single person that posts, that comments on his post, he comments back. And sometimes 2 or 3 volleys of conversation, because that's where they're building relationship online. And ultimately, that then has him following them. And now he's commenting on their posts, and there's the conversation that's taking place there. And so we're now in relationship because we're constantly talking to each other. But how do you tell people who you are when you're meeting them? Well, we need our 10-second, our 30-second, our 90-second introduction. And if any of you know Marty Latman from Northern New Jersey and financial groups, he's a career coach that would tell you you need 2 sets of introductions. One that's heavily jargon laden for the people in your industry who understand it, and one that's something that any schmo like myself can understand. And I'll give you a quick example of that. There's a woman here in New Jersey that I've worked with a few times that would describe herself as the risk management algorithm creator for banks when they're looking at corporate loans. Now, I don't know, Andy, maybe you understand that coming from a little bit of a finance background. I had no clue what the hell she was talking about. And I finally said, tell me in layman's terms, what is it do you do? Because I don't get it yet. And this was like 6 or 8 months of seeing her every Wednesday morning at a networking meeting like this. And she goes, well, Paul, think of it this way. You have a credit score, right? Yeah. Do you know what that credit score is and how it's derived? I basically understand, yeah, based on how much money I've borrowed from different organizations and then paid it back, you come up with a number that says this is how reliable I am at paying my loans back. She said, exactly. I'm the person that creates that algorithm for banks when they want to loan money to companies, because there is no credit score nationally, worldwide accepted for companies. Every bank has to create that score themselves. Now, do you all understand what she does now? That's the point. So when she's talking to those bankers, she can use that first option. When she's talking to us, she needs to talk about our credit score and relate it to us. We want that 10-second teaser to be just that. Real quick, real pithy, something that's going to draw me in. Then the 30-second needs to be kind of like the lead-in on the news story when the anchor is describing what the news reporter is going to talk about. And then the 90-second is kind of like what the reporter is sharing on the story. So they keep building on each other. But even when we're done with the 90-second introduction, even when that news reporter is done, I don't know about you, but I usually have more questions. That's what we want our introductions to do. Elicit more questions. Bring that person deeper into conversation with me. So we need those 6 different introductions. So we've got through now that first preparation phase. With all of those things done, we're ready to actually go out and start working on our job search. Questions so far?
Nothing online.
Okay, yes.
Just use the microphone, like a rock star.
Could you talk a little bit more about LinkedIn posting? what are you posting about? Your future, your past, your what?
It's a great question. Neither. What you want to be posting about are the current events, trends, new products, things going on within your industry. Okay? You want to show yourself as being up to date, current, knowledgeable on what's happening in the world today. In particular, as it relates to your industry, your profession, your role or function. And then you'll make a post, and then people will comment on it. And then you'll comment back to them. You may find, for example, in your LinkedIn feed, an article that someone else has shared and find something of interest and value in that article. So now you're going to comment on that or reshare, repost that article with your own comments. And then people are going to comment back and forth. So it doesn't have to be anything about your past or your future. It's not necessarily bad to include some of that, you know. For example, I might say, I just see, you know, this article is all about resume writing. And I tried those 3 tips 10 years ago and they didn't work. But now today, it seems like they're actually working. So I need to rethink how I'm writing my resume. Let's take a deeper look at this article. Right? And then people are going to share their thoughts and comments on the article. And so those are the kinds of things you would want to do. Is that helpful?
Yes.
Great. Yes. In the
Hey,
back.
Paul, I would also try to pull that back a little bit into the preparatory work that you did.
Oh, yeah.
Because I would think that commenting on the industry that you want to get away from, or that you want to try something else, that doesn't really
Exactly.
help you. You should be forward-looking,
Exactly.
and where do you want to go, and kind of direct your efforts there.
100% accurate. I agree with you completely. So now we're going to start to look at networking, which is the tedious work of your job search. And what we want to try and constantly be doing is refilling our funnel of options all the time. So let's start with that first milestone of networking, milestone 5, and that's general networking. That could be networking with the people online today. That could be networking with the people in this room. For example, prior to starting the event, I was talking with Patty and Andy here, and Patty was telling me about a role that she's applied for with the Pennsylvania Workforce Development, their version or part of their Department of Labor. And I've done some work in that space in the past, and so I'd like to learn more about what they do in Pennsylvania compared to New Jersey. So she and I had a nice little conversation, and we plan to have a next conversation to talk about that further, right? Now, my goal, I didn't say this to Patty before, but my goal, right, is to get to know some of the people in the Pennsylvania Department of Labor, particularly in her case in Bucks County, and then be able to talk to those folks about how I can help train them, or I can provide educational events like this for their clients. And hopefully that could create more business for me, right? But it's also going to be ways that I can help her network into workforce development in New Jersey because of my past experience working in that space, right? So there's a mutual opportunity for us to help each other. And we've started the conversation, we've started the relationship, and now the benefit is going to be, I'm going to be able to give her some hiring manager names, she's going to be able to give me some names, and we're going to be able to move forward together in finding those opportunities. That's what we want to do at this point. If you think about the 6 degrees of separation, right, we all know, right, or as many would like to remember from the 1980s, the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, right? Who do you know that knows somebody that works for the company I want to work for? Who do I know that works for the company that you want to work for? And how do we get to a point where we're willing to share that information with each other? That's what we're doing when we're networking in job search, and that's this piece of the networking. My recommendation to you from a metrics perspective, because project managers are very big on metrics, right? From a metrics perspective, we need to have 8 to 10 ongoing conversations with people in this space at any given moment in time. And those conversations over the course of several weeks or a month, maybe 2, will lead us to introductions to hiring managers. That's our goal. Questions on this milestone and this type of networking. Then we're going to start networking with those hiring managers. And who is the hiring manager? I love that quote, if you will, on the right side there. The hiring authority is the person who is at the right person at the right level in the right organization for you. One of my clients is a COO. He needs to be talking to the CEO or the chairman of the board. Those are the only 2 people who can put him on payroll. One of my clients is a frontline software developer. He needs to be talking to the DevOps folks. Those are the hiring managers that can put him on payroll. Who is the right person at the right level in the right organization for you? How do you get access to that person? That's what we're doing. Now that we have access to them, we don't want to be asking any of these people, whether it's the general networking milestone 5, or even right now, the hiring managers, we do not want to ask them for a job. Our conversations right now are not at all about hire me. Right now, our conversations are all about how can I help you as the potential candidate? How can I help you? And are you willing to give me the benefit of your knowledge, your guidance, your mentorship? But first and foremost, how can I help you? Because once I help you, you're beholden to help me. That's human nature, right? So I want all of you to be beholden to me. Okay? Questions on networking with hiring managers. Now, hopefully after a month or so of networking with these folks, we'll get to the point where they want to interview us. And what might happen, and it happens so often, I have had 5 clients last year of the roughly 80 clients that I had last year. 5 of them doing this networking with hiring managers had positions created for them. 5 out of 80. It's about what, 6%, 7%? That's a pretty good average in job search, right? Another 4 or 5 ended up getting a position because the organization was looking at getting rid of a low performer, but were hesitant to pull that trigger until they knew they had somebody to replace them. And now that the perfect person to replace them came along, they pulled the trigger, got rid of the low-hanging fruit, and brought in the new person who hopefully could do better. That's a lot of opportunity. That's why we don't want to talk about open positions, because we don't know what other options are there. And then, of course, of the 80 clients I had last year, 76 of them did actually end up finding a position within about 5 months. And the rest of them, other than those first 8 or 10 that I mentioned, all found their position because they networked into an open role. So we're not going to go into detail about how do we interview today. But the point here is we've gone through this progression from networking with someone who can introduce us to the hiring authority who's now ready to interview us. And that should happen in about 3 to 5 months from the first time you start networking with people that are going to introduce you to that hiring manager. Okay. Here's the key to interviewing and actually to networking too. Do not let the conversation stop. So every single conversation I have with someone, I am going to set up my next conversation date. And we hear this all the time. Gee, Paul, thanks for coming in. We'll get back to you. Hey, that's great. I had a great interview. I look forward to hearing back from you. When do you think you're going to be getting back to me? Well, I don't know. We've got a bunch more people to interview. Maybe a couple, 3 weeks it'll take to do that. Fantastic. Today is Friday the 17th. If it's going to take you about 2 weeks, if I haven't heard from you by Friday the 31st, right, March is 31, can I call you on April 3rd, Monday, April 3rd? I'm setting up that next conversation. Here are a couple of reasons why we want to do that. Number one, as a hiring manager, they're busy. You're not their number one priority. They're going to forget to do it. Number two, it's not important to them. It's important to you to find out if you got the job, right? It's important to you to find out if you got to the next step. It's not important to them. Don't put the responsibility on them to do your work. You need to do the follow-up. Take the responsibility off them. Make it easier for them to want to talk to you by you taking responsibility for that follow-up conversation. Now, you're giving them the option, right? Hey, if I haven't heard from you by that Friday, can I give you a call, right? But come hell or high water, I'm going to call you Monday morning, whether or not you want me to. I'm gonna, because this is important. I need to know, did I get this job? I'm assuming the job I applied to about 8 or 9 years ago, I didn't get at this point, but I still don't know. Nobody ever called me. Right? So follow up. Follow up. And I'm going to give you an example of following up. I had a young man, he was 24, 25 years old, still early in his career. He was looking at a role with the company, and he said, this, Paul, if I die tomorrow and I worked for this company, I will die a happy man. I said, well, okay. But he knew what he wanted, right? He knew what he wanted. We got to the point where he was one of the last two candidates standing for the role. It was between him and somebody who had almost 15, 20 years experience. They decided to go with the other candidate. But he followed up. He said to the hiring manager, I hope you can see how excited I am to want to work here. I really believe your company and this department is the right place for me. I know I can be successful here if you give me that opportunity. Can we continue talking and share? Well, let me share what's happening with my job search. Maybe you can tell me some things that are going on in the company. Can we continue talking? The guy said, yeah, sure, fine. Kind of was blowing it off, but said yes. So a month out, he called back. Just want to let you know, here's the status of my job search. How things going there? 2 months out, hey, I just saw this article, thought it would be of interest to you. 3 months out, hey, I see this, that you're in the news for this. It sounds really exciting. Maybe, there's some place that we can do some stuff together. Here's how I think I might help you with that. 6 months go by. He finally accepts another position at a different company. 2 weeks into that position, they fire the person that they hired for that role. They never bothered to interview another person, didn't even post the position. They called him up and said, listen, Steve, if you want the job, it's available to you. He said, oh my God, I was just getting ready to reach back to you and let you know I just accepted another position. It's been only 2 weeks. Definitely doesn't feel like it's as good as the position would be with you. If you would give me 2 weeks to leave this company in an appropriate way, I'm ready to come work for you. Sure, no problem. That was 13 years and 4 promotions ago that took place. Why did he get that job? He followed up. Persistence. He followed up. I know a senior sales executive who, for 28 weeks, once a week, called the VP of sales of the company he wanted to work for. He and the admin for that VP became best friends. On week 28, the VP finally said, okay, enough is enough. Called the guy up and said, why the hell are you calling me every week? You and my secretary seem to have a better relationship than she and I have. What's going on here? And he said, listen, I just think your company is a great place. I think I can do some things to help you with grow your sales. I want to just give you an opportunity to look at my background. 3 weeks later, it was his first day on the job. Follow up. Keep the conversation going. Any other questions, thoughts? Okay. So let's come back one last time to our chart. And I want you to see how we've been talking. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so there is a question from Sonia. Is that desperation?
No. At no point were either of those two examples being desperate. They were just keeping a conversation going. They were just staying in touch with the hiring authority. That's all. Notice with the young man, I said, you know, the first contact was just here's an update on my job search. The second was here's an article I thought you might be interested in. The third was here's an article that I saw that about your organization in the news, and here's what I think about what's going on based on that article. Never was he saying, hire me again. He was just keeping the conversation going, keeping him top of mind of that hiring manager. That's all that was about. Yes, Patty.
It's showing their passion.
It's showing their passion is what Patty is saying.
That's what they want.
And exactly, that is what hiring managers want. They want to know that you're committed to them and helping them, making their life easier. Right? And that's what we're trying to do there. All right, so let's look at the Gantt chart one last time here. Now, notice where it says target positions, right? The first is those 8 to 10 conversations we're going to have with people who are going to introduce us to hiring managers. If we do a good job of working those conversations, in about 2 months, we should be talking mostly to hiring managers and not so much to the people that introduced us to them. In about 2 months of hiring manager conversations, at least one of them is going to be ready to interview. And so we'll now have that interview. And remember, 8 to 10 general conversations are going to lead to 5, maybe 6 hiring manager conversations, and that's going to lead to the one interview, right? And when we find someone who there's just no way in hell they're going to introduce us to a hiring manager, okay, fine. We put them kind of on the back burner, maybe leave them for a once every quarter conversation versus a once a week conversation, pull somebody else new from either that company or another company and start working that conversation, that network, that connection to get to the hiring manager, right? And people are going to come and go off of that, but at all times, I'm always going to have 8 to 10 people that I'm talking to in those companies that I want to work for. And I'm always going to have 5 or 6 hiring managers that I'm talking to. And when I fall below those numbers, I'm slowing down my job search. I'm losing my momentum. If I don't have those numbers today, what do I have to do to build up to that and get that momentum going? Then we'll have that one interview that will lead to the offer. Now, if you notice, let's see if this is going to work there. So if you notice, when I'm talking to hiring managers in this target market, I've also started the general conversations with people in this target market. So I'm refilling my funnel of options because at some point we're going to run out of people to talk to in target 1. So let's then move on to target 2 and start talking to people there. And when I'm done talking to hiring managers and starting to interview in target 1, I'm now talking to the hiring managers in target 2. And by the time I'm getting offers in target 1, I'm getting interviews in target 2. Oh, but wait, I've also started networking into target 3 because I've run out of people to talk to in target 2, right? So I'm constantly moving down. Oops, I hope I don't lose my battery before. So I'm constantly moving down that chart and refilling my funnel. It also puts us in a real powerful position when we're interviewing, because then I can go to, let me step back 1 second. Notice the target numbers, right? 3, 1, 2. What? I want to go to my C list target first, my number 3 target market first. And I want to practice, and I want to learn, and I want to prepare, and I want to get onto my A game. And if I happen to get a job offer there, yeah. Do I care? No. But then when I get to my A list, that number 1 target, I'm on my A game for working with them. Now, when I'm getting that offer in the C list, I can go to my A list and say, hey guys, listen, I'm getting an offer over here, and I'm afraid that I'm gonna have to say no to you because I have to say yes to them. What can we do to speed this process along? Or I'm gonna go to my C list and say, hey, listen, I'm about to get something from my A list. I'm not gonna say it's my A list, but I'm about to get this offer from this other company that's like $25,000, $30,000 better offer than what you're giving me. Are you gonna be able to come up and make it close enough that at least I can consider it? Puts you in a much more powerful position. Okay. So we want to work through our targets 3, 1, 2 rather than 1, 2, 3. And we talked about these sales numbers already, so I'm not going to go back to those now. I've been throwing some benchmarks at you all throughout, right? And so let's look at some of these again and think about this. And I'm going to say this directly right now to all of you online. How many of you have already started to connect with the other people online on LinkedIn? What is the reason why, whether you're here in person or online, what is the reason why you're in this meeting today? Well, Paul, it's something to do and I can feel like I'm being productive. Okay, someone here said to meet people. Great. It's great to say to meet people. It's great to say networking. How many people are you going to meet before you leave the building? How many people are you going to set up another conversation with before you leave the room? What are your goals for being here? What are your goals for participating in this event or any event? So everything you do in your job search, create your goals. Now, I would suggest that to come to a meeting like this, your goal is one of 2 things. Either to learn information from the presenter or to find 2 or maybe 3 people that I don't know already that I want to get to know and set up that follow-up conversation so I can start to network with them, start to get to know them. That's what we need to be doing. So what are your goals? You need to have goals every day of the week, every week of the month, every month of the year that you're in job search. And if you track those goals, then you can start to see your progress towards the job that you want. Right? And so I've started to give you some of those numbers. First off, if you're unemployed, you need to be in job search 40 hours a week. Absolutely. 40 hours a week. It's a full-time job to find a job. Here are some sample dashboards that you could use to track those goals and some typical numbers that I would suggest for each one of those categories. Okay, so again, let me know that you want the slides and I'll send these to you. If you really want, and you go a little extra step, you might just ask me if, Paul, you happen to have samples of things like that dashboard or that Gantt chart that you'd be willing to share. And I just might actually throw those in the email back to you too. Okay, so please reach out to me and get these tools that will help you in your job search. We need to track all these conversations. I don't know about you. There's no way in hell I can keep track of 20, 30, 40 conversations taking place at one time. right? So we need some system to track them. This is just a simple Excel spreadsheet. And I want you to look carefully at these first two columns. You know, all the columns to the right is just contact information, right? But this comments column is where I'm keeping a running commentary of all of my conversations with you, so that when I do talk to you next, I know what I need to talk to you about, because it's right there. And then this callback column, that's the date that I've scheduled to contact you next. Now, hopefully it's one that we've agreed upon, but in some cases it may be I've just decided, you know what, I'm going to wait 2 months and I'm going to call them back in 2 months, so I put that date in there. When I come down after breakfast every morning, I open up this spreadsheet and I sort the Excel spreadsheet on callback date. And oh my God, it tells me everybody I need to talk to today. How simple is that, right? And then I've got all the information I need to remember what it is I'm going to talk to you about. And now I can keep track of all of those conversations and keep them going. I'm a very strong proponent of calendaring. And this can help in a whole bunch of different ways, not the least of which is if you add up all of the job search activities on that calendar, it adds up to 40 hours. Notice how there's a job seeker support group Monday night. We've taken time off during the middle of the day to relax, right? Or maybe that's the time I do the honey-do list, because Lord knows we all have the honey-do list that has to get done too. Right? What else this has done, I literally, the 3 times I was in job search for 18 months, 2 of them, 9 months, 1 of them, I took this calendar and posted it. Even though it was on my phone, I still printed it every week and posted it on the refrigerator for everyone in the family to see. And it did a couple of things. Number one, no longer was I getting interrupted in the middle of a networking call because they saw that I was busy. Number two, when husband came home from work that night, Dan would not say, "So, Paul, what the hell did you do all day today?" which was the conversation at first. Instead, the conversation became, "Hey, Paul, I see you had this networking meeting today. Who was it with and how'd it go? How's that person helping you with your job search?" Right? And it changed the whole dynamic of the conversation. And when I said, you know what, I don't have time to do the laundry today because look at the busy stuff I've got going on. I can make time to do it tomorrow if we need me to be the one to do it. Completely saved my marriage. Absolutely saved my marriage. Right? So think about how can you help these people that are on your team help you? And who are those people on your team? The stakeholders that you need to include, they are your family and your friends. They are your professional network. You need a career coach because things in this process are changing every single day. I mean, ask Alan, your resident coach here. Right? My God, every day I'm learning something new when I go to meetings like this of what's working today that didn't work yesterday. So keep on top of those things by utilizing the people that you have available to you. Not only should you attend a group like this, no more than once a week, by the way. I honestly, I'm sorry, Dave, I recommend you probably only want to attend a speakers group like this once, maybe twice a month, and then only when the topic is of value or you know there's people there that you want to meet. I think you should also attend a networking support group. That is a group of about 6 to 10 people, all who come together once, maybe every week or 2 weeks, and you go around the room and say, what's going on in your job search? How can we help you? And you give, you share what's happening, you tell what's working, you tell what's not working, you ask your challenge. And then the group brainstorms together. How can we solve that challenge for you? And it's amazing the best practices that come out of that. So I think you need that. You may want a therapist. You may need a spiritual advisor, someone who can help keep you, on the right emotional track. But I think you also need a work search buddy, which, by the way, for all of you who are here in the room, sorry folks, if you were here, you'd get one too. You can get a copy of my book. It's $5 if you want one. Just you can contact me directly and I'll mail it to you. But if you're here in the room, it's in the back. Just take one. It's yours for free. And it's called Work Search Buddies, Finding a Job with a Little Help from a Friend. It tells you how to use another person who's in job search to work together to help motivate each other and hold each other accountable to your daily goals so that you get your job faster. Okay, I'm beat. I think I've talked too much. Questions?
And that's, of course, good for online as well, folks. If you have any questions, you can quickly unmute and ask. Anyone here, please just walk up to the microphone.
Here are some upcoming presentations that I have. Let's skip the slide. There we go. These are the support groups that I facilitate. The Yojo Club, where's Darian? He stepped out. The Yojo Club is for folks who are under 30 years old and in job search. The Outstanding Careers Group is specifically for the LGBTQ community. Executives in Job Transition, our next meeting, by the way, for them is this Monday, 3 days from now. And we meet from 10 to noon. All three of those groups are the type that I described, where we go around the room and everybody gets a chance to share what's going on in their job search and ask for help. Professional Support Group of Morris County is our sister organization to PSG Mercer up in the northern part of the state. So I either facilitate or co-facilitate all of those groups. If you're under 30, you're welcome to come to that group. If you're in the LGBTQ community, you're welcome to come to that group. Everyone's welcome at Executives in Job Transition. The one group that's missing off here is my alumni group. But again, look at that as a better option for yourself as well.
And where is it?
All of these groups are online. Yeah, we're doing them all virtual. I really, by the way, commend Dave and PSG Mercer for going back in person. Well, I think we all need to be aware of our individual health needs, and I don't fault anyone for doing that. I do think there is value to being in person, which is why I chose to make the trip down from New Jersey, or from North Jersey to here today to be in person, because I think there is a lot of value to doing that. By the same token, there's sometimes value to being online. And for example, the differentiator between PSG Morris and here, Morris is 100% online. Our meeting starts at 9:30 and goes till 11:30. We open the Zoom room at 8:15. And we have as many people online between 8:15 and 9:30 as we have from 9:30 to 11:30. And they're not the same people. Because folks who have been members of the group who are now working but have a little bit of time will pop on every week or three and visit and chat and keep their networking going. They may be there for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, but they pop in and out. And so we call it breakfast and bullshit, pardon my language, but we have a great time in that hour and a half or so, hour and 15 minutes prior to this formal start of the meeting. And so it's a great opportunity for people to be able to network. And we have folks that do come from across the entire state of New Jersey, eastern Pennsylvania, and one as far away as southern Connecticut. So.
Oh, we have a question online then.
Yeah.
How do we find the links for the groups?
You call me, reach out to me, and I'll be happy to get those for you. By the time I get to it today, it'll probably be later in the afternoon, but I'll definitely get back to you, as soon as possible if you reach out to me. These are the upcoming presentations that I've got happening. And again, you can contact those individuals to get access to those, or reach out to me and I'll be happy to talk to you or get you the contact information. Oh, what happened? There we go. And there's my contact information. Dave is going to put it in the chat. As soon as we shut down the presentation, but keep the Zoom, the meeting to go open, I'll also put my contact information into the chat there. And for those of you here in the room, my business card is in the back, so just go ahead and take that and get in touch with me. Folks, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate your comments and conversation as well. I'm going to ask you, though, 2 more questions, and I'd like the folks online to respond as well as the folks here in the room. What did you like most, or what's the number one thing you're taking away from today's conversation?
Follow up.
In the room here, follow up. Patty?
I liked your spreadsheets, because I'm a spreadsheet person.
Okay.
So I like to be organized and it really gets.
Having the tools, the spreadsheets to use to keep you organized. Thank you. Was it you? Yeah.
Follow-ups and the spreadsheet as well. I like the spreadsheet.
The spreadsheets as well.
Follow-up.
Okay.
Actually, like, gives an idea.
Great. So the follow-up and the spreadsheets. Andy?
Having more than one target market.
Oh, more than one target market. Great. Thank you. Anything online?
Yeah, somebody said the spreadsheet for organization, follow up by creating the spreadsheet, calendar to let your family know what you're doing,
Great. Oh, that's a great one.
personal brand and social media.
Excellent. So people have taken a little bit of a lot of different things from this presentation. Fantastic. I can talk ad infinitum about all of those things, so we can have additional conversation about any of those. Second question I have for you all, and I absolutely mean this sincerely. The only way I get to improve my craft is to get critical feedback. So please, do you have any thoughts on things you think I could do different or better to improve not only the presentation, but my presentation skills?
Plug in your computer.
That's right.
Learn the technology, Dave says. Yes, learn the technology. I'm with you, pal.
All good.
Nothing coming up yet, but I'll keep looking.
All right. Well, again, thank you all very much, and I'm glad to have had the opportunity to be here with you. Thank you.
So Paul will be sticking around a little while, which is very nice. And because he didn't plug in his computer, we're going to pelt him with leftover cookies. So that's the penance he must pay. You know, there were a lot of points here. I'm not going to redo your whole presentation, but the points that really stuck to me, points that I like to talk about when I get to meet other job seekers. Really, I guess it was part of milestone 4 is knowing your audience. Make sure you know who you're talking to.
Yeah.
A lot of us are very self-centered, especially when we first get into job search, where we think the other person is going to understand just what we're talking about. So if you're going to be talking with someone in your industry, you can use industry jargon and you can use acronyms and terms. But if you're going to speak to someone who's not quite in your industry jargon, in your industry, you can't speak that industry jargon. I kind of posted for fun in the chat when you were saying that. There was a line in the movie Philadelphia. It was Denzel Washington's character. He was the attorney. Explain it to me like I'm a 4-year-old. And so sometimes knowing your audience, you can really explain what you're doing in a simpler way. So make sure you know your audience. And that also goes to the places that you post or how you post. If you say, I love Facebook, I'm going to put it out there on Facebook, but your industry is not on Facebook, it's not being seen by the right people. So be aware of your audience. And also knowing your stakeholders. And certainly, I really like the story you told about involving your husband, making sure that he understood what you're going through. Many of us do have family members at home, a spouse or partner. And if we do this on our own, as our own journey, they may get frustrated kind of accidentally. So keep them involved, let them know what you're doing. It doesn't mean that you're going to land faster, but hopefully you won't get any sort of accidental pressure from them.
Even your kids.
Even the kids, right? It could be something as simple as, last year we went to Disney World, why can't we go this year? Well, if you don't have the income, you may not take the big vacation. But if the kids want to go away, well, maybe you take a more cost-effective, or you do hiking in the community or something to keep the kids engaged. But the flip side is, the people that are the closest stakeholders, your family, your spouse, partner, kids, they're not industry experts. They're not then they're not going to be objective. They love you, they care about you, they want you to succeed, they're going to be supportive. But if you say, can you help me with this interview? They're going to say, you're perfect the way you are, because you're wonderful to them. So when you do need some assistance, maybe it's a career coach, or maybe it's professional references or other people outside your most inner circle who can be the most objective when you need that objective support. So just realize there is a little bit of difference of the people who are your stakeholders. So Paul, thank you very much. Very informative, a lot of great information. And so I did also post Paul's information in chat. Of course, his business cards are here. He's here, so that you can get the information you need. Want to let you know what's coming up over the next couple of weeks. Yeah.
Lisa has her hand raised online.
Okay, so Lisa, if you'd like to unmute and let us know what your question or comment is.
Lisa, we can't hear you, I see.
Do we have Jeopardy music we could play? Or...
I apologize, I was double muted. So yesterday I had a call with a director of a company I've known for 10 years, and I had written him an email saying I'd like to have a short chat with you. So as soon as I got on the call, he said to me, so you're looking for a job? And it sort of threw me because I really wanted it. I said I really wanted this to be an informational call. And of course, I couldn't lie and say I'm not looking for a call. So what do we do in something like that? Because I definitely was thrown. He was wonderful. I actually wrote him a thank you, and he's going to be handing off my information to some people, but that's not how I wanted to go. I wanted it to follow the process, and it's the second time I was stopped because someone else did that to me.
Sometimes you have to punt and go with what they throw at you, but you did the right thing by saying, actually, yes, I am looking for a job, but not right now. Right now, what I'm really looking for is more information and guidance, because I want to make sure I'm properly prepared to come to you for a job when the time is right for that. So I would love for us to be able to talk more just as friends and share some information today. If you have an opening that you're interested in looking at me to or for, then let's set up another opportunity to talk specifically about that opening and do a formal interview.
That's great.
I don't know if that...
No, that's great. But as far as other things you talked about, I actually did it. I contacted someone I wanted to work for. It took 2 years because I had other job, and I was hired. And then another time I wrote a letter. I was not hired somewhere. And 3 months later, I wrote, has a name and I just blanked out. I wrote a letter to the company saying why they should have hired me and what I can do for them. They hired me due to that letter. So what you're saying does work.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you, and I'm glad to hear that it did work, because all of my clients find value in doing these things. I want to just share one other story with you when Dave was talking about your family. Here's a networking story from someone about 7 or 8 years ago, and I believe this gentleman was attending the PSG of Central Jersey. He shared that he was in banking in this area. Actually, his family is in Princeton, and he was out of work. So he was being a good dad and started driving his daughter to kindergarten in the morning. And one day, she came down for breakfast and said, "Daddy, why don't you go to work anymore?" Right? Now, talk about heartbreaking, right? But he didn't get upset by it. He said, well, I don't have a job right now, but I'm looking for a new one. And then he proceeded to explain to her in terms that she could understand what he did. And he said, if any of your friends, mommies or daddies, work at banks, I'd like to get to meet them. Well, a week later, she comes running home after school. Daddy, guess what? My friend Amy's daddy works at a bank too. Okay. How am I going to get to meet Amy's dad? So one day when he's driving her to school, she says, "There's Amy." And who's dropping her off but Dad? So he goes over and says, our daughters apparently know each other. They're friends. I want to get to know the parents of my daughter's friends. My name is, who the hell are you? That kind of a thing. They exchanged some basic information, did their 30-second introductions. The guy said to him, you sound like the kind of person that I really need in my organization. Here's my card. Would you please give me a call later today, and let's see if we can't get you in for an interview in the next week or so. 3 weeks later, he was the vice president of Provident Bank. That guy was the president.
Wow, very nice story. And do you know what Amy's commission was?
She got a finder's fee.
Kids,
Network
college
for
fund.
you.
Yeah. Yeah. You never know who's going to connect you to the next job. If you have a chance to see and speak with Marty Latman, he'll tell you a story about how he went for a haircut. He lost his job, went for a haircut because he had the middle of the day. The stylist wanted to know why he was there in the middle of the day, explained that he lost his job. Turns out the stylist was connected with someone that introduced him to someone and landed his next job. You never know. So be open-minded when you're on the line at a supermarket or someplace else. Who you may meet, it just may be the person who could be your next link to your next job. So, Paul, thanks once again for being not only being a wonderful supporter, which you have been forever,
Thank you.
but for coming down to visit with us in person, because we are actively working to keep ourselves as relevant as possible in person again. I think that's very important. So glad you were able to do so. He is wearing Princeton orange. I don't know if you saw that, so that's very nice as well. Hawaiian shirts next time maybe, we'll see, but that's fine. And as for our upcoming meetings, letting you know what's happening over the next couple of weeks, we will be right back here next week. It'll be the 24th of March. Lepora Lindsay will be here, and the program is The Advantages of Rejection. So what you can learn, even though you got a no thank you letter, or I'm still waiting about 11 years to hear from, let's see, Burlington. Burlington hasn't gotten back to me yet. So maybe tomorrow, we'll see. And then the 31st, Lynn Williams will be here. There was a question or two about LinkedIn. She will be talking about LinkedIn for job seekers. Lynn is another LinkedIn guru, almost as good as Ed. She's very attentive and knowledgeable. She's one of the people that also studies and researches what LinkedIn is doing, much like Ken Lang and others do, if you know Ken. So that's what we have the next couple of weeks. And of course, Paul let you know, one of our cousin organizations, PSG of Morris County, meets every Wednesday morning. They start at 9:30, but they open the doors a little, or virtual doors a little bit earlier. And PSG of Central Jersey meets Mondays at 10:30. And so you can meet with them virtually, psgcnj.biz and psgmc.org. So until we get to see you all, hopefully very soon, even in person or virtually, until then, we will simply say, bye, everybody.